Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third lecture for DECODE Silicon Valley Startup Success. And today we'll be focusing on the concept of product market fit. A quick run through for today's agenda. We have our usual topic overview, and then we have a great speaker who will be doing a keynote, and we'll be hosting a Q&A for you to all ask your questions. And towards the end, we'll put you all into your project groups so you can go and start discussing on next week's assignment. So before that, let's get started on the 3 core elements of startups. And the first one is team, and the next one is product, and the last fundamental element of any startup is the market. And if everyone can go and put in the chat what they think is the most important element for any successful startup, and I will talk about the, so to speak, correct answer. Okay, great. All right. We have a lot of teams. We also have a lot of products. I don't see any markets. That's really interesting. Hopefully I can change your mind by the end of this presentation as well as Kevin's presentation. All right. Okay, so the majority of you said team or product. But in reality, I would say that all 3 are important. And I deliberately left that out to emphasize that all 3 are as important as each other because you need a team to build a product and go to market. And specifically, you need a competent team to build a product users love and go to an expanding market. So if I could go back and change the options, I would also add all of the above, which I feel would be the correct answer. And I'd like to start by talking about an interesting infographic I saw from Forbes. And this one was conducted a couple of years ago, and they analyzed about 100 startups. And they found that the number 1 problem that many startups fail for is the lack of market need. And what does that mean? More on that later. And a couple of other potential things that cause startups to fail are product mistimed. Okay, and the next one is a startup loses focus. Okay, and the next one I want to highlight is bad location. So all of these are very important because they're all related to this concept of product market fit. So what is product market fit? It's the term that I've been throwing around. Well, we have 3 different perspectives, and the reason I got 3 different perspectives here is because I feel there's no right or wrong answer. And it completely depends on the startup. So we have something from Mark, who founded Netscape, which is one of the early web browsing platforms. And he says that product market fit is about being in a good market. We also have 2 different perspectives from the founders at Y Combinator. So Paul and Michael, who said that it's about making things people want. And Michael said that it's focusing on the market first. So this is kind of a verbose paragraph here, but it basically explains when you know that you have reached this product market fit. And I will let you guys to read this on your own time, but a few words that I want to highlight. It's all about, customers are buying the product or growing or piling up, calling, getting Entrepreneur of the Year awards, or investment bankers are staking out of your house. And these are all key terms for when you know that you have reached this product market fit. And this is a really good diagram because it kind of explains our workflow. So During our first week of the class, we talked about problem solution fit. So identifying the problem that the world faces and building a potential solution for that. And the second week, we talked about MVP, minimum viable product. And now we're on to product market fit. And that's all about finding a product that fits in the market at the right time, at the right place. And it's very important to go back to the drawing board every now and then and constantly pivot. And this is a very crucial step because if you don't have a good grasp of the product market, the startup is bound to fail. And that's why I feel iterations are really important in any startup. So to sum things up, product market fit is all about finding the resonance between the customer's needs and the value propositions that your startup provides. And it's all about writing your assumptions down. And I use a tool called the Business Model Canvas for my own startup. And it has really helped me find the root cause of any problems, as well as the main values that I want my startup to provide to the user. And it's all about validating assumptions through these iterations. And here are a couple of books that I definitely recommend. The first one is The 4 Steps by Steve, and it's all about discovering customers. We have The Lean Startup, more on that later, and that's by Eric. And then we also have Ash's Lean Canvas. And my personal favorite out of all three would have to be Eric's book, because it brings up this important point of the 5 whys. And this book is pretty lean, and there are only 300 pages to it, but it talks about the idea of interviewing your customers, building the MVP, and iterating to get a good product market fit. And it provided a really good iterative perspective. So here's an example of finding the root cause of a problem. So maybe someone tells you that the battery is dead. Well, you'd first want to question them why. And now you will know that the alternator is not functioning properly, and so forth, so on and so forth. You have to continuously keep asking why, and that will really help you find the root cause of any problem and hopefully make improvements in your startup. So on that note, I'll give it off to Rex to introduce our great speaker for today.
Okay, so now I'm gonna introduce Kevin. So he's the founder and CEO of Snackpass and Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2020. He was a graduate at Yale, and he founded Snackpass in his last semester at Yale. They raised 21 million in Series A, and now on its way to expand to more campuses. So obviously, like, I'm not the best person, so without further ado, let's welcome Kevin and hear his story of how his team had made Snackpass so special today. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, everyone. Good to be here. I'm actually a big fan of Berkeley. So I actually live in Berkeley, which is kind of ironic because I think a lot of you aren't in Berkeley, even though you go to school here. But I've been here the whole time throughout coronavirus. So that's how much of a homer I am for UC Berkeley. And I actually moved here after YC in 2018. Basically, we went through YC and they were like, you should stay in the Bay Area because that's where startups, start and succeed. And that logic made sense at the time. Nowadays, it doesn't really. So then we said, okay, we'll stay in the Bay Area, but we need to be near a campus. So that's why we ended up here. Anyways, so let me share my screen. I have a little presentation. We actually we use Discord at Snackpass now instead of Zoom. It's been much better. Oops. All right, you can all see. Cool. I actually can't see you all, which is kind of weird talking to myself. So let me see if I can show the participants. Okay. Well, anyways, so yeah, so I made a really quick presentation. It's like super simple, and just kind of want to breeze through it and get some questions. So the topic of today is product market fit, creating it, measuring it, doing all sorts of things. So we're going to talk about, kind of break this up into, first, how to create something people want, second, how to get your first 1,000 customers, and in the waiting room, and then lastly, how to know when you have product market fit. Okay, so first let's start with how to create something people want. And by the way, if people want to chime in to ask some questions, just like say something, because I can't actually see anyone. So yeah, this is a message we got from one of our users. So she said, she's like using Snackpass and it makes getting food so like awesome. I honestly think Snackpass at Princeton would be revolutionary. Please consider Snackpass for Princeton. It's been life-changing. So we've got like a lot of these messages organically from users. Someone tweeted at us, my suite mates are a big fan of you, see our wall. So it's like a mural sort of thing, or a shrine, I don't know. And then Hannah tweeted, in the last 30 minutes, I've received 3 presents on Snackpass. I've literally never felt this popular before. So yeah, those are, I shared those with you because we're really talking about how to create something people want. I'm just preface by saying what I've discovered is that everything in startups and business is like heuristics, meaning there's no like hard truths. Pretty much every principle someone says is true. You can find like a counterexample of the opposite working out for some people. It's very, very like situational. So these are all just heuristics, and you use these heuristics to try to get results, but it's not a science, obviously. Okay, so the first thing is to not build anything you wouldn't use yourself. Now, I don't know if this is actually true for SaaS companies. I don't work in a SaaS company, so that might be true. But for consumer companies, I would highly recommend doing this. And it's not so much that you personally know, like, are a fortune teller or anything. It's more the fact that, like, if you won't even use the product you're building, like, why would anyone else even bother? Like, no one cares about your product working more than you do. So if it's something that you don't even want to use, like, definitely don't expect anyone else to. I found that it's also, there's a huge gap between creating something for an imaginary customer and trying to imagine what they want versus literally using it yourself and knowing with your fullest conviction what you would want to change about the product or how you want to like adjust it so it suits your needs better. So an example of that is like, you can do a lot of like user interviews and sort of like sensitivity analysis on what features, like A/B testing essentially. But like we had one intern come in and he said, I use Snackpass all the time. Like we need pickup estimates. And like we didn't, that was the best kind of feature. The best kind of feature is something you don't even need to like experiment with, like A/B test. You know with your fullest conviction that's something you want. And it just makes it so much easier to develop a product because you don't have to guess. And if you guess, half the time you're wrong. So just trying to take the guesswork out of yourself by being your own customer. Okay, the irresponsibility test. This is another heuristic. And basically what I mean by this is like, you should make something that like someone would be, I used to think, I would say like, make some, like when I made Snackpass, basically my thinking was like, what would be something my roommates would be stupid not to use? And then I heard Jeff Bezos say like, phrase it in a way that says, make something that someone would be irresponsible not to use. So I thought a little nicer way of putting it. Same idea that like, you have to be literally irrational or insane to not use this product. That's like the bar. If you have that bar, it doesn't guarantee it'll work, but if it doesn't reach that bar, like it's very hard to get people to care about something. So if it's not something that is that high of a bar, you might have less of a chance of using it. And then jobs to be done. So I don't know if I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this framework. It's from the guy who wrote The Innovator's Dilemma, Clayton Christensen. So what jobs to be done framework is essentially a counter argument to a common like way of thinking in Silicon Valley traditionally, which is like being kind of like data driven in your approach to create value. And what jobs to be done is saying is basically like no one buys anything because they are a certain demographic or they are of a certain like fall in a data set. You know, like being a young adult Asian male living in Berkeley doesn't make me want boba. I want boba because I want to hang out with my friends and we want to get something to drink and like something that you can just get quickly. You know, when I think about that, the product that I hired to do that job is boba. You know, I don't wake up in the morning like, oh man, I'm feeling really Asian today. Like, actually, you know, that might be a little bit of a red herring because I think there might be some interesting conflation of like Asian identity and boba. That's a whole like socioeconomic thing. I'm trying to think. Let me think of a better example. Okay, so the example he used was like McDonald's McFlurries, and so they were asking questions like who like they're like are they older people who like the McFlurries? Are they younger people? Are they like people who you know like live on the East Coast? But then they like talk to the customers and realize like a big part of why people buy the McFlurries is because they're on these long commutes and it's something that you can just sip on and last a long time. And so yeah, like they didn't wake up and they're like, oh wow, I'm like 60 years old, I really want a McFlurry. They woke up, they're driving to work and they said, wow, I really want something to keep me occupied during this time that's also really tasty. That's when you hire that product to get that job done. So it all has to stem from what job you're doing for people, like what problem or value are you creating. Not any like data set, and especially not some like VC trend or jargon that like because like the future is I don't know like audio or something, you want to create like an audio app. You create an audio app because like you want to hang out with your friends, you know, not because you want to innovate in the audio space or something like that. At least that's not why customers hire your product. Okay, so iterate and discover. I think the point here is like sometimes you don't actually know the jobs to be done up front. So funny enough, like with Snackpass, we started with delivery. We started with like the restaurant. There were like I knew a few restaurant owners in New Haven at Yale, and I started with the idea that like, okay, let's get some discounts for the students, and you can use your Yale.edu email. And delivery was kind of like they did their own delivery, like 1P delivery. And then what we discovered was that over time, like what the people who used the app, they came for the discounts and they actually stayed for the convenience. They were like, it's just so much easier to just whip out my phone and not wait in line. The food's ready when you get there. And so you don't always have to like, I think once you pick a space, you can like enter it, look around and like there I think once you dive a little bit deeper you can kind of discover what are the biggest problems in this area, and you can iterate so you don't have to like be tied to your initial thesis essentially. Okay, and then lastly, just a tip on making products. So one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was from my college professor, philosophy professor, and it was like about writing essays. And his tip was basically you should write the essay, the philosophy essay, as if your reader is stupid, impatient, and mean. And and not because they are, but because you have a lot more context about what you're writing. You have a lot more time to think it over, and you have a lot more generosity towards yourself in the arguments you're creating to view those arguments generously. But the reader is none of those things. So you should overcompensate for these things by just assuming they're stupid, impatient, and mean. And when I think of a product, I think of like, put it in front of them, right in their face. They look at it for 2 seconds. Do they want that thing? You know, that's probably the amount of time you have to like, and attention you have to compel them. Okay, so any questions or anything? I can't really tell if people are like commenting. Oh wait, they are commenting. Let's see, chat. Okay, not really. So okay, so let's move on. So we'll do next thing, how to get 1,000 true fans. This is kind of a tactical section. So in the early days, this was like the flyer I made, and I put it on every like door and drinking fountain, everything at Yale. And that's how we got our first couple thousand customers. So that's literally what we did. We put flyers up. We gave some cupcakes out, and yeah, so here's some tips for this. My first tip, just do it manually in the beginning. Like, it's just a lot easier to iterate on things that are manual instead of like, just imagine like coding like some type of thing and then iterating on that. It just takes forever. Like, it's a lot easier to iterate on manual processes. I would say use your network. So I just think of so many examples where this was true. So just the other day, I was cold emailed by a YC company that is doing like, I think it's kind of like essentially machine learning driven ratings or like featured content as a service. And they just reached out through like, cause they're like with YC. And that's just such a good way to tap into, like, get some trust, you know, get compelling leads. Our network was basically Yale students. So like got some friends to, I basically forced my friend to order like a ton of times. And yeah, I think there's something organic about it being your network as opposed to some like random network that you have no familiarity with. And then I think be a consultant. So again, it's really interesting. This YC company that we're working with, it sold us, right? We're their customer. They're just like, they don't have self-service right now. They're creating this SaaS company. Usually with SaaS companies, like you have like a self-service dashboard, right? But they were like, we don't have self-service. We'll just code it for you. Like, we're gonna get in your code base and code it for you. I was like, wow, that's pretty smart. I was like, these YC companies really kind of figure their shit out. Like, so they are literally our engineers, you know, coding it for us. That way they don't have to worry about like creating a self-service interface that would just take a ton of time and you have to get it right and everything. They can just focus on creating value for us and thereby really validating their idea. So be a consultant. In our early days, I would just go and talk to restaurant owners and, you know, I'd be like, how's this working for you? Well, like if we can, if we can make your dreams come true and build you the most, the app of your dreams, like, what would you want? And they said, well, you know, we really want a way to tell our customers that their order finished early. And then sometimes we want to let them know there's a little bit of a delay. And so we built those 2 things like in a day, and it's still used today. It's so okay. I remember to not build everything they want. Just a word of warning, like there's a million problems that customers have. Sometimes like it doesn't really benefit you as a company to do everything they want. I think this is especially true about like companies and enterprises. they'll just like want you to solve all their problems, and they want you to be like that magic bullet sort of thing, and you can't do that. But even with consumers, so I remember like in the early days, we had this like happy hour list, but it wasn't happy hours for restaurants, it was like happy hours for bars. And we created this like thing where you could see it, and we were going a different direction. We were focusing more on like food and drinks, not bars. And they were messaging in, they're like, hey, like, can we add this back? Can we add this back? And usually that's a good sign. But this time we were like, well, is like listing happy hours for local bars really the direction we want to take? And it would involve us like kind of working in both areas. It's too much, you know. So I think it's just important. And then let's see, lastly, yeah, I think when in doubt, spend time with customers. So like many moments where there's a lot of doubts, a lot of like slow or non-existent growth in the beginning, kind of like literally grinded for like 8 months with like very little you would not call that exponential growth. It was like I would have my Slack notifications on, and we had this channel with like purchases, every purchase, and like when I would go on a run, like, and I'd like see those purchases come in, and every single purchase felt like so special and so hard earned, and like it got me through the day, because it certainly wasn't, we were not getting any funding or anything like that. So those got me through the day. But anyways, I guess my point is, I have rarely like experienced when we're like not knowing how to do something or think about strategy, like talking to a customer has not resulted in some interesting insight or realization. But yeah, I think in a nutshell, first 1,000 customers, just like go like do it by hand. If it's compelling, it should be. You don't need a growth hack here, I think. But it has to be organic. Like using your network, I think, helps you do that. Again, these are heuristics. I'm sure you can find counterexamples to every single startup aphorism. Okay, it's not a science, but they're heuristics, and I think heuristics help you make the most use of your time, you know, and increase the likelihood of success. Okay. All right. So how to know you have product market fit? The last piece. Okay, so just for fun, this was like what it initially looked like. I don't even think this is V1. This is like another iteration. Like it was super janky, and people use this. This is a chart of retention, cohort retention, which I'll get back to. Very important. Okay. Excuse me. So the heuristics I come up with here for how to know you have product market fit is first the jank website test. So like in the early days of Amazon, that website crashed like all the time, and it was like super janky. It was like a little search bar, didn't work at the time, but they rode that thing all the way to IPO. So I think if you can grow and your site is janky, then that's a good sign, because it means there's really solving a need that people are willing to put up with your janky website. You know, if everything has to be like perfect, then that probably means it's not that compelling, to be honest. Now, I think there are a lot of counterexamples to that. But you can also kind of go insane going that direction, because there's a million things you can get perfect. So if you really say like, okay, I'm only going to validate my idea once I get the product perfect, then you're going to spend years of your life on it, and with the chance that it never will work. So I think the jank website test is a good heuristic. But again, lots of like, Apple could be considered a counterexample. word of mouth test. I think what's really interesting is what I realized with, so, you know, I showed these flyers, right? And that's how we got, I'm sure, a lot of eyeballs. But what was interesting is the early days, when you asked the customers, where did you hear about SnackPass? 9 out of 10 of them said a friend, not like a flyer. So I think what happened is like the flyers initially spread the word, but it was viral enough that or it was good enough that people wanted to tell their friends about it. And I remember when we launched at Berkeley, someone told me like this kid was like running through the hall screaming about like dollar boba or something. Like it was just like how much would you have to pay someone to do that, you know? So I think when a majority of your customers, you can just serve it like are when you ask where they heard about it is through a friend, like that's a pretty good sign. Flashing blunders. So this was just kind of interesting anecdote, so I'm just going to share it. But like in the early days, it was starting to grow so much that like we didn't even have the right infrastructure in place. So the entire football team would just like order at once at the smoothie place, and the smoothie shop was like, we can't handle all this. We're gonna like pause it or turn off the tablet or something. And we're like, no, don't turn off the tablet. And they're like, no, we gotta like so many blenders to wash. So they said like, we'll wash the blenders. You keep taking the orders because we wanted those orders so bad. But just goes to show there was some like growing pains, and I think growing pains are part of it. It's not necessarily a bad thing, even though at the time it feels like it. And this, I still have something I have to tell myself often, but like you're not going to have the resources of a bigger company to make everything work. So when things break, it's fine, you know. Okay, and then lastly, just the basics, just so everybody knows, they should know this. Pirate metrics, if anyone doesn't know, it's acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, referral, I think is the order. So yeah, like that's basically how you can, if those are good, then you're good. Now I think like while there is a whole function around growth and optimizing these metrics, I think in the early days you have to keep in mind that like those are measuring the outcome. They're not causal. Like you don't have a great startup because engagement is high. Engagement is high because you're solving a need, you know, and people like your product. Thus, the metrics are good. It's not the other way around. So a lot of startups would ask me like, how do I like, you know, how do I drive retention? How do I drive engagement? It's like, you know, you should just make the product better and solve actual problems, and then these will get better. Like, you're not going to tell someone like, hey, can you engage more? You know, like you can't. These are outcomes. Now, I think at scale, there are basically a lot of funnels that you can optimize, and there's a lot of friction that you can't really see at that high level because your product base is so big and your user base is so big. It's good to sort of like tweak it and use these metrics to identify sources of friction. But at the early stage, these aren't causal. They're the opposite of causal. They're outcomes of creating, solving a job to be done, essentially. Okay, that's it. I hope that was helpful. And I just so you know, like there's a lot of stuff written about this. A lot of it's pretty good too, like YC, and I just kind of wrote down the stuff that first came to mind. So which kind of means that, you know, there's like the canon of startup advice that you can find easily on the internet. And then here's the stuff that if you ask me what was most top of mind or what have been most helpful, this was the stuff. And that might be different depending on, you know, what kind of startup you're doing, obviously. Cool. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, Yeah, really good
All right.
point, Helen. Thank you for sharing. If anyone has any questions, feel free to PM me or Grace, or you can raise your hand using the feature. Yeah, I see someone has raised his hand. Yeah, get us started, George.
Hi, thank you for the talk and the presentation. I have one question regarding you mentioned looking beyond the numbers and looking beyond the data. What is Snackpass exactly doing regarding that issue of looking beyond the numbers, beyond the data set? And the second one is, what's your favorite New Haven pizza?
I like Sally's.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I lived near there for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, beyond the data. So I think mainly the point was all the stuff before that. So like creating something that you want and that solves people's problems, like doing their jobs to be done, is what, like, depending on how well you do that, the metrics will be good or bad. Not really that more complicated than that, I think. You know, and then you know, you do have to think about like the size of the market and the unit economics of what you're doing. You know, if you gave everyone $10 bills for free, like that would be pretty high retention, but that's not really going to work out for you long term. Although it might if you're Uber. So you know, those are other constraints, but ultimately people use products and services to hire the job. And yeah, in terms of what we're doing to do that, I think we always try to talk to customers, talk to restaurants. We always make sure to think about that question is like, is what we're building something we personally want or use? And often we've like made that mistake as much as anyone. And every time we catch ourselves and say like, is it like what you're selling, like what you're marketing, would you even use it yourself? And sometimes we say no, and then it's like, let's stop this, you know. That's very unspecific. I think it obviously depends on what you're working on.
Thank you so much.
But the main thing is like that data, it like is the way you measure something. It's kind of like saying like, hey, like I want to like lose weight. Like, how do I lose weight? You know, I got to like reduce calories or something. Like that's like a terrible example. Like you want to lose weight and it's like, okay, well, like let's measure the like size of my waistline. Like that, well, that's after. That's the outcome. Like what causes that? You know? So you can't just like message a bunch of users, be like, hey, please retain. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, so someone raise their hand. Buy-in.
Yeah, hey Kevin, thanks so much for being here today and just sharing some insights. I guess like I had a question. So I noticed that there's a lot of like staggered discounts and promotions on Snackpass, and like oftentimes these like draw in business. So I was curious, like building off this idea, like what your thoughts are on the overall like potential for dynamic pricing within, I guess, like the food industry or the restaurant industry as a whole.
Dynamic pricing. Yeah, you know, you like the analogy to surge pricing might be something like when things are busy, your burrito costs like $2 more. Now, the funny thing is that this would actually solve a lot of problems. Like a big problem of restaurants is that it's very lumpy demand where you have these huge periods of time where they're just burning cash on fire because they're paying for the rent and labor, which is together 60% of their costs, maybe more. And then you have other times where they're like literally turning people away, or like it's just a huge line because there's so much demand. So in theory, like something like surge pricing could be better, but I think consumers really don't like it when things are like higher than the menu price. But I think, you know, you can make it definitely lower than the menu price. So things like happy hours and so that's like a time-based thing. we also do like what we really think about is how to have promotion formats that are win-win. So you're bringing incremental orders and you're basically paying the customer in the form of a discount to bring more incremental orders. So an example of that is this recent feature we created. It's called party mode. So you can kind of order with a group and then you all get a discount. And so the idea of that is like you're giving these customers some incentive to draw more incremental orders. So those are all things we've 100% thought about. It's kind of like the core of what we do. But yeah, it'd be really interesting if someone could make surge pricing work for orders. But I do think the way things are going, like, I don't know if a static menu will exist, you know, like in the near future.
Do you mind if I ask you like quick follow-up on that? Like,
yeah,
are your promotions and discounts right now like initiated usually by the other party, like the restaurant itself, or is it sort of something that's in collaboration with Snackpass as well?
We work with them on that, yeah, and then sometimes they initiate it themselves.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, you know, the interesting thing about like restaurant owners might be the least self-service customer segment of like any customer segment. And it makes sense. They're very busy. They don't have the time. And, you know, they're not like, so like a lot of people who are running online stores using Shopify, for example, very internet savvy because they're internet native. These restaurant owners are not internet native. They're being introduced to the internet. And they're not going to go up and sign up for your thing for the most part. I think like what at Uber Eats, I learned that like in like 4 years of having like self-service sign up, like you can go and sign up for Uber Eats, they had like 5 restaurants do it. Like out of all Uber Eats restaurants, they don't sign up themselves. You have to call them. Nick.
Yeah, hey Kevin, thanks again for being here. I guess like I just had a quick question on sort of obviously the genesis of your idea was like based around college campuses and sort of settled into your niche there. But do you have like any prospects to grow that demographic outside of like young college students ever, and like I guess like move the geographies to different locales as well?
Yeah, so you know, currently over 15% of our user base are non-undergrads. And so they include like locals and grad students, faculty, staff, although a lot of locals. And I think this is pretty important because it's a very local business, like food, and you have to expand locally. So you don't really get the, like, for example, like Snapchat doesn't have to get like 90% of people in Berkeley to use Snapchat. They only need to get like 90% of like teenagers. That could be like 10% of Berkeley people. So they're able to the kind of penetration they have, it doesn't need to be local, because it's just like an internet thing. Whereas for us, like we have to sign up every restaurant. So in order for that to really pay off, like you kind of want to get all the business around that restaurant. That's just kind of like how the unit economics break down. I think the same, probably, that's kind of why like local marketplaces are hard. You have to kind of start again in every region. So yeah. Yeah, to answer your question, like it's something we're doing, and actually it's pretty popular. Like the users who are non-students are showing that they retain kind of and are engaged as much as the students are.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Who else raised their hand?
Yeah, so someone private messaged me a question, and it is, how long did it take to get your product market fit, specifically for Snackpass?
I think it was about 8. Like when it really hit, probably like 9 months. Yeah, it took a long time. And ironic or not, I don't know if it's irony, but we didn't, not only we got rejected by YC twice, but we also got rejected by the Yale like Entrepreneurship Institute like several times. Like I was trying to, I graduated, really funny story. I graduated and I was trying to like find a way to stick around and like work on this. So I applied to get like funding for the summer fellowship thing at Yale, and they were like, nah, you can't, like, I don't really dig this. So, so yeah, during that whole time in the summer, we were working on it, kind of using our savings. I did like some coding on the side. So it took a long time.
I have a question. Great talk, and I'm just wondering, have you ever been offered like to be acquired or some sort of that?
No.
Just a follow up, like I'm just trying to know, like if you were to get an offer, how would you, like, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think we're trying to build like the biggest company in a big market, and this cool thing for Ben Horowitz. But like, if you can do that, then no one can afford to acquire you. So that's the goal. But yeah, ultimately, I think, I mean, we're trying to like build like a enduring company that has created so much value that it can just keep growing on its own. But yeah, it completely, the focus is just like, I actually have this kind of like framework. I think about a company is basically like a value growth machine. Like I think some people think of companies or startups as like, especially like bigger companies, like maybe like a company is like a set of people and functions and systems, or like processes. But my opinion is that a company is only a company insofar as it's creating and scaling customer value. And to the extent it's not doing that, then it's just a bunch of people playing house and not building company. So yeah, that's what we are doing. We're just trying to like create a bunch of value and scale that to as many people as possible.
Thank you.
Hi, Kevin. So you just mentioned that you had gotten rejected 3 times from startup accelerators. Could you share with us maybe like a couple of reasons why you think you got turned down, and how you went about to change that?
Well, I think the takeaway from that is like, I really think that okay, so like in high school, if you think about what success is, or like from an academic perspective, the people who hold the power are the college board administrators who read the resumes or read the like your job, your college essay and stuff. And if you think about like maybe like finance, the people who hold the power of your success is your future managers and interviewers. But in business, the people who hold the power are the customers, and like no one else matters. For example, you can have the shittiest like pitch deck, whatever, and have no connections. But if your customer like are rapidly eating up your product, you'll have no problems like raising money or like these accelerators will be pointless actually. So it doesn't even matter like what will get you into some type of accelerator. All that matters is that you create enormous compelling value for your customers through some really innovative product or service. And everything else is just a badge that feels like success because it seems kind of like the previous what we're familiar with which is like hiring managers or college, you know, application reviewers, but it's really flipped. So I think you could spend a lot of time chasing the wrong things. You know, I think like pitch presentation, like I've seen like, or at least at Yale, I saw like the Entrepreneurship Institute hold like pitch practices or something. It's like, why are you wasting your time on that? You probably spend most of your time like getting a high bang for your buck by like learning how to code or something, or learning how to design, so you can actually like iterate faster on your product, or build things in a better way, you know, or learning about some type of interesting industry, as opposed to trying to like perfect the pitch. So I think like, to answer your question, really what changed is like we started growing really fast, and then that got us in, you know. So yeah. Now I will say, like, you know, that being said, I did spend a lot of time on, like, for example, like our seed or Series A deck, and thought about how to present the story and stuff. But like, if you look at that as a percent basis of the work I put into Snackpass, it's like 0.001% or something like that.
Great, thanks.
Okay, let me ask one more question that was sent to me. And it is there a way to quantitatively measure the product market fit, say like a score?
You know, there's this really interesting article written by the Superhuman founder, trying to achieve basically that. And I think it was like some type of like NPS score, but instead of NPS, it was like, how sad would you be if like we didn't remove this product or something like that. And I think that'll help. I think I mentioned the pirate metrics. If those are all great, then probably have something that people are creating a lot of value. I don't think you have to get super accurate with this, honestly. Like for us, if it was like, if things are just growing really fast, you know, like 10% week over week, if people are emailing you saying they love your product, like through your support or whatever, if something goes down or not working and they write angrily like, please make this work, which happened a lot to us, I think those are all good signs. Here, I think the hard thing isn't so much this like kind of like getting the right rule, because like honestly you could probably just measure like sign up, engagement, and retention, and have a pretty good idea. Like show me one startup that's doing well that doesn't have that, and show me like one startup that isn't doing well that has those things, you know, really good. Like, it doesn't have to be that scientific, to be honest. Now, I think one thing that is hard though is like, here's the thing, it's like an emotional thing. So you're putting so much work into it, you're looking for every sign that it's working, and you're trying to cognitively avoid every sign that it's not working, because that's just human nature, and it's so emotionally draining. And that's the same thing if you like someone, if you have a crush on someone, like every little thing they do that might indicate that they like you, you know, you latch onto, and every time they could be obviously not interested, and maybe you kind of like tune that out. So I think it is hard, like super hard, emotionally, to have that, to avoid the selection bias. I think that's what it's called. Sometimes the easiest way to fix that problem is just by talking to another founder or someone who isn't as emotionally involved, and show them the facts and let them tell you the hard news or the good news. You know, instead of trying to have such mental clarity that you have, you're able to know, you know, without any selection bias. I don't know if that helps. That's the way I would approach it.
All right, if there are no other questions, let me ask one of my own.
Sure.
So how do you manage the product market fit in your company on a continuous basis, especially since like the product is evolving all the time and the market is changing all the time, like different dynamics and competition?
Yeah, see, this is so the market, as I've learned, like, it can change very rapidly. So previously, DoorDash and Uber Eats were like kind of around, but now they're obviously like a big part of the industry. And the thing is, actually, they present both challenges, I guess, but also opportunities. Like a lot of restaurants are very dissatisfied with these platforms, these aggregators, because you're basically paying the aggregators a finder's fee for every order they bring you, even if they're just customers that would have ordered from you anyways, like 15%. Which is interesting because, see, I think this is more of a scientific thing. I think you could probably measure a marketplace's loyalty index, for lack of a better word. So for example, like, how many times do you drive with the same Uber driver? Like, I don't know, probably not that much. So the platform is doing a lot to bring that driver demand. So they can charge like a really high percent. Same with like bookings.com, I imagine. Like, I'm not like tied to any hotel. So if I got a listing on bookings.com or Airbnb, like, I probably wasn't going to go to that hotel. So with a marketplace where there's a very low loyalty, I think there's a huge role for aggregators to drive demand. But I think the restaurant industry is a little different. Like, it's an interesting stat I came across, which is that 70% of a restaurant's business comes from repeat customers. So does it really make sense to be paying sort of like a finder's fee on aggregators? So that part of the industry has changed. So now we're finding ourselves in new types of jobs to be done for the restaurant in particular. So yeah, I think it's always a as people's problems change, that's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll also ask one of my other questions. And
Yeah,
that
go for
is,
it.
so what was your minimum viable product and how did you determine that, as well as how long did it take you to iterate on something and kind of get the core idea of your business?
Yeah, so in my slide deck, I showed that really shitty picture of our initial website, and that was to kind of make a point with the jank website test, which is like, in the beginning, it was very, very like basic. Now, I think what's interesting though is that's also kind of a benefit, because if you can only work on like, people like simple things, let's put it that way. So you have the benefit of making something really simple. And I find like maybe like, does anyone ever think like, oh, Amazon, like what terrible UX? I think some people do, maybe designers, but like I think most people would say they have no problems with the UX and they're able to get the job done. So you're able to really just focus on creating something simple and that people will like really just like nail it, So I guess what I'm saying is, in a sense, an MVP allows you to create a better product, or at least a more focused product, than a non-MVP. That actually might, interestingly, like spending less time on it, having a more restricted feature set, it might actually be better for customers. And it's actually, once you start adding on a bunch of stuff, and we've made this mistake as much as anyone, that's when it starts becoming really annoying to the customer. Like, just keep it simple. So yeah, I think, I don't know if there's like a hard and fast rule to this MVP thing, like how much time to spend on it or not. I do think there's probably a different threshold of an MVP for like food ordering apps than say cars. Like you don't want a janky car. So I think like the nature of what you're building greatly affects that. But I think for a lot of software products, like it can be pretty janky. Again, so this is really interesting. Like there's a counterexample to everything, right? So for example, like Superhuman, the whole point of Superhuman is that it's not janky. Like Gmail's janky. Superhuman's beautiful. So it's kind of like a complete opposite of that idea. And I think there are probably a lot of cases where that's true. But for us, another funny example though is GoPuff. So I don't know if you ever use GoPuff app. It is like it's like I think what they did is just basically outsource all their engineering or something, or it basically seems like it. It's all outsourced. But they're able to be like $1 billion business with this like terrible app. I think Berkeley engineers, like undergrads, could probably build a better one, which goes to show that like it's a very strong value proposition. So I think it depends. I think the janked website test is one way to go about it. You can also go the other complete opposite, and it might work out too.
Yeah, thank you.
I gotta say, like, you know, if like, I think if you're someone like, maybe Mark Zuckerberg's not the best example because his public standing these days not good, but like, I mean, he did everything by the time he was 25, he's like running a $1 billion company. But like, it's very, you know, like you don't learn tennis by watching videos of people playing tennis alone. You have to like go out and play tennis, you know? So I think a lot of learning here can be really truly internalized through the muscle memory of doing it over and over again. Well, honestly, that's kind of why I think like teaching languages in classrooms is like kind of a waste of time. Like how much more efficient would it be if you just like spoke Chinese or something, like, and instead of like learning verbs conjugations. But yeah, I think especially with startups, like if like the muscle memory of going out and building things, feeling the pain of building something that people don't want or don't care about, and internalizing that mission and saying like, I'm never gonna bother building something people don't want again. That is so invaluable. Like before Snackpass, I did a lot of that. So that's what I would recommend. Get out and try to think of some creative solutions to some things, and just start building it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Kevin, sorry to spam you with another question, but
Oh, you're good.
I was curious, like when you were initially like thinking of the idea for Snackpass, how did you know there was this sort of like unmet or unaddressed need? And I guess like what was sort of like the process of like initial assumptions you made that sort of like helped guide your business?
Yeah, totally. You know, so it's interesting. There's like the story you can tell to like a news outlet. It has to be like a sound bite. And but actually I'll tell you a few of the sort of like initial thoughts. Well, yeah, one of the first ones was basically that I was like working on some other platform. It was basically like Etsy for fashion, and it didn't work out. And I got so like sick of like, I'm like, okay, what is something that my room, like the people I know would be stupid not to use? I started on the opposite spectrum. I was like, I'm gonna make something that like is guaranteed for people to want. And if they're already buying food and they can get it at a lower price, then that would be fit that criteria. Well, actually, I was still in the fashion realm, so I tried to do something there where you get like dynamic pricing with like searching for like clothing, but then I couldn't get a hold of any of the sellers. I actually tried to get a hold of like Urban Outfitters, and it was just, you couldn't do that. So actually I said like, who's selling stuff who I can get in touch with? And I actually had built a few websites for this local pizza shop. I knew the owner, Kadir from Brick Oven Pizza. So I went and I'm like, hey, like, is this like, I can help bring you a lot of more business, and I know that's what you want. It's got to give them some exclusive discounts. So that was the genesis of that. And then but the thing is, it wasn't growing like super virally at the time. So I knew like you had to have some mechanism where people were sharing, because if it just was this like one single player experience, it wouldn't be viral enough. And so I was thinking about like, how can you make everybody share every single thing? And you might be familiar with this, like the gifting feature, but what's funny is like, I initially, the first iteration was you would refer someone to get points, and no one did that. Like very few people did. So then we changed it and we put it right in your face. So after you purchase something, you have to send someone a gift. And that came about because so we had the reward points at the time, which was inspired by the Starbucks app. And I was thinking about like, man, like the whole time I was like, this has to be more social. This has to be more multiplayer. And there was this girl at the time who I had a crush on, and she really liked Tropical, this smoothie place. And so I was like, the first thing was like, all right, I gotta get the smoothie place on the app so you can use it. But then the second thing is like, wouldn't it be cool if I could like use this thing I made to like create this gesture? And I was simping really hard, as Robert pointed out very, very acutely here. But hey, it pays to be a simp, you know, gotta say. So, cause yeah, and then at the time, so I was like, well, if I could just send a gesture through the app, wouldn't that be cool? That'd be like a really fun thing to do and get visibility. And so I was like, wow, if I can only send a gift through this, like how would I make that work? And then I thought about the reward points, and so I figured, well, you know, what if you could just send a point to everybody? What if you don't just get a point for yourself on every order, but you can send one to a friend or whoever? And that actually made every purchase sort of like shareable moment. And that was really key to just spreading that word of mouth. Why did I go into this whole tangent again? Honestly, I forgot where I started. Oh yeah, it was like, how did I, you know, how do we like approach making something people want? And all this was very rooted in like what I was using on a daily basis. I think that helped a lot.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone starting any exciting projects or working on something? I'd love to hear about the ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyone involved in a startup? Yeah.
I think this is a good opportunity to even get the word out as well. I think this applies to everyone. I'm currently working on a personal project that I guess you could term startup. Essentially, it's a content aggregator for learning management systems like B courses. I think that everyone in this chat has had some incongruency in between themselves and their learning management system assignments are put in like thousands of different places. And I know personally, I'll have a lot of trouble figuring out what I need to do, when I need to do it, when I need to submit it, what documents I need to read, what readings I need to do, just because they're in a ton of different places. So currently working on a program that takes all of these things and puts them into one very simple place, one task checklist. And it's going to be available within the next couple of months to all Berkeley students for free. So looking forward to that and, you know, hoping for the best.
Awesome. Is it kind of like stuff you need to read for like classes, like different articles or?
Yeah, Yeah, so for example, one of my classes, it posts assignments under the assignments tab. Another one has assignments in a syllabus. Another one has plain text assignments just on the course websites. I don't know where I need to go to find a reading for this assignment. I don't know where I need to go to find a reading for an assignment in a different class. So it's just a ton of disorganized data points that we're trying to, put together into a singular space.
Got it. Who puts that together?
We're trying to write a machine learning and language recognition program that would be able to parse syllabi, parse course websites in plain text, and generate data from assignment tabs and module tabs within various sections of these learning management systems.
Wow, that's awesome. Cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, go for it, Yash.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Yash. Firstly, just a fantastic kind of intro and speech for tonight, so really appreciate that. But yeah, I'm currently working on a startup called Bahi, which is basically allowing students to buy books from various other Cal students, kind of once they've already done that course for a cheaper price, knowing that they're going to get the right edition, right ISBN, to kind of not have the hassle of finding that kind of wrong book. And then in the future, we're trying to kind of diversify into the Netflix of textbooks type mentality, where you pay a subscription fee and have access to textbooks, work solutions, resources, and tutoring all in one platform.
Wow, it's really funny that, or a coincidence. So one of our board members, Josh Koppelman, he's the head of First Round Capital. He I don't know if you heard of half.com. It was like in the 90s, during the first .com, and he sold that to eBay and made a ton of money on that. And that was I think that was his premise, selling half the used textbooks. So it's cool that it's interesting that it's still a problem for people, or unsolved pain point. So really, really cool.
Yeah, I guess I can go next. So currently I'm working on launching a startup called Draw My Love, and you can check it out on drawmylove.com. And basically we provide a platform for people to design personalized books for their loved one on special occasions like Christmas or Halloween. And the concept really, it's all about customization, and it's all about providing a better gift than the usual chocolates or cards. And this is more meaningful because the user has the chance to design personalized characters and basically design and author their own book with pictures, text, and the user has a lot of freedom to put all this cute content. Or they could also go with any of our ready-made templates that only take 5 minutes. And after the user orders on drawmylove.com, we will professionally print and deliver the book to the doorstep. So it's a tangible way of saying I love you to someone.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So an illustrated sort of book, yeah, it's really cool. Hey, let me know when that's ready. I'd love to use it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't even know how you would make a book if you wanted to. So that's super interesting. Yeah, let me know. How are you tackling the design piece? Is it all some type of are you building all that software to do the design?
Oh, no. I'm actually working with a team. We have 2 software developers in another country, and we have 2 designers. So yeah, it's not me alone. The software is really complicated since they have to work on the payment side, as well as creating the interface to open a virtual book where you can drag and drop. And yeah, that's a little too complex. So I'm working with a couple of software developers to get that done.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not saying this is the right, this might not be a good direction, but one thing I noticed that's really interesting is there's 2 websites I found recently, and I think pretty popular. So one's called super.so, and it's you can turn any Notion page into a website. And then the other is called Figside, and it's the same idea, but for Figma. So you can turn any Figma thing into a website. And I thought what was really cool about that is it made it so much easier as a user to not have to learn another tool, to just use this and like kind of like import it. And I'm happily paying for their monthly service to. So like basically what I'm saying is like, you know, I think a lot of startups historically have found have sort of like hacked by building off of other platforms. So I think like Spotify with Facebook is a pretty canonical example, or like Farmville. So, you know, it might be interesting to I'm not saying don't build the software, but like it might, you know, maybe if you really focus on like what, you know, have like a Figma import or something, basically. Anyways, really cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah,
let me know when I can use it.
Yeah, of course. I'll touch base with you on that later.
What is the?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
What I'm curious, like, what are the besides? Oh, do you all use Snackpass, or does anyone not like Snackpass? Like, have some words for me? I'd love to. It's totally cool if you don't. What are some of the other like interesting products or whatever outside of Snackpass that you're kind of like using these days? Anything like what's like hot right now, like with college kids?
I would say Clubhouse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, someone introduced it to me, and it's so easy to just join a call, and yeah, it connects you with people just over your phone, and I think it's great.
Very cool. Was it DoorDash? Yeah, DoorDash is good.
I used to use KiwiBots last year when I was in Berkeley. I used to live there. They had the same thing, but they had the ratings. Like as you order more, you get points, and then you get free orders, and then you have the discounts. They had the robot bringing it to you to the library was pretty efficient, especially like during like rainy days when you don't want to go out, and during exam times, or like you have to study, like you don't want to walk around. It will be like right in front of the building. That was pretty interesting, yeah, to use.
Yeah, we actually partnered with KiwiBot. They fulfilled some of the Snackpass delivery orders for a while until, and then I think they left Berkeley or something like that. But yeah, super interesting. Cool.
Awesome.
Is it fair if I add in Robinhood? I have a couple friends who just signed up for Robinhood because of the game stocks thingy and the AMC. So yeah.
Yeah, that was insane, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm curious if I feel like no one's gonna really care about. I don't know. I feel like the average Robinhood user will like not like it, and then they'll like kind of forget about it. That's not really a moral value judgment on Robinhood at all. It's more just like I think people kind of forget about these things. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, Rex. I don't know if you want me to keep answering questions or what you want to do.
All right. Well, if we have no more questions or anything you want to share, I think we will wrap it up with Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights, and your stories are amazing. Super funny, but you know, they get the message through, and I love that. So thank you so much. I'm sure you have inspired a lot of people to start, you know, working on their ideas. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Let me share my screen, and we will get started on the discussion.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. It's been fun, and I wish you all the best. And just like being in this kind of meeting, like I'm sure you're all like very, very passionate about. I mean, it's really cool. Like I just remember a lot of people in college, they were like going into consulting, and that's cool too. But it's very like there's so little barriers you know, and you're like the customer is the one who empowers all startups, all companies, and all VCs. Like they're not the leaders, the companies are. So it's just a very kind of democratic sort of thing, and really fun. Like never a boring day. So yeah, best of luck to everyone.
Thank you. All right, Grace, would you like to get us started on the logistics?
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a few seconds, just say thank you, Kevin, so much for coming to our class and share your experience with us. We really enjoy your talk. So now I will be going over the syllabus. So as you saw my announcement on this week, last week, we actually updated some parts of the syllabus. And the first part is the grading. So our weekly assignment is worth 300 points. So that will be 30 points each, and there will be 10 assignment. And for our semester-long project, that will be worth 700 points, in which the project assignment is worth 50 points each, and there will be 8 project assignments. And the final group and your finalizing group, and then your group evaluation is worth 50 points. And then our final project, which is the pitching project, is worth 250 points. So to pass this class, you need to get over 700 points. Siri, do you mind to cut to the next page? Okay, so for our project, so the project is gonna be semester long, and then we only allow 6 members maximum because we want everyone to get their full participation on the project. So every group who have over 6 group members need to adjust. And then the group project is worth 250 points, the pitching project. And then we will select the best 10 groups or so to pitch on the demo day in front of the real VCs. And now I'll be going over our attendance policy. So this will be the last time I go over the attendance policy in class. So please take note of this. So attendance is taken at a random time during the class. So if you have greater than 2 unexcused absences, you will get a non-pass in this class. And if you're late to the class, that will be counted as half absence. So if you have greater than 4, if you're late to the class 4 times, over 4 times, you will also get a non-pass. And the warning email will be sent after your first unexcused absence. So does anyone have any question regarding the syllabus? Feel free just to either private message me or just ask in the chat and we will be answering you. And the logistics. So for next week is the President's Day, so we don't have class on that day. So please take note of this. And then for our class lecture recordings, just check the DECODE YouTube channel. And then we will post the lecture recordings here. So email decodesv@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns of releasing our video to the public. And Shuo will be hosting office hour on Clubhouse on February 27th at 8:30 p.m. PST time. So if you need a Clubhouse invite, either email me because I got 1 invite left, or email Shuo. And also just speaking on the Clubhouse. So our course is streaming on the Clubhouse every week at the same time we are having the class. So please spread the words to your friends or your classmate who you know might be interested in our course. And now for our assignment, our February 8th assignment will be due on February 21st. And then our Project 3 assignment will also be due on that day. And just For our submission of the project assignment, we actually change our submission. So you don't have to submit, for each project group, you don't have to submit assignment everyone individually. So you'll be only need to hand in one submission each group. And then our assignment is assigned to each project group. So you don't have to submit by yourself, just submit in your group and that'll be fine. And also our fireside chat with Jimmy McGurk is coming up on this Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. And that will be from 7 to 8 p.m. PST time. So if you're interested, don't forget to sign up for it. Also, if you are interested in talk one-to-one with Jimmy, just to sign up for the roundtable. And for our attendance check today, so select Violet and that will be the passcode of the day. Yeah. I will wait a few minutes here just for everyone to fill out the attendance. Okay, I'll wait another 1 minute. All right, if you missed the link, Serena will also post this link in the chat box, so make sure to check it. Okay, so now we're going over to our discussion section. So just check for the number for your breakout room. And if you have any concerns, private message Rex since he's the one assigning all the breakout rooms.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get you assigned. Sorry, not assigned. I'm just gonna go ahead and create random like meeting rooms, and you can just enter those according to a number there.